Hummer, from military beast to gas-guzzling casualty. In the scorching heat of the Mojave Desert in 1979, the United States Army needed a new kind of vehicle. Something that could navigate the most punishing terrain on Earth while carrying soldiers and supplies safely through hostile territory. They found their answer in a small Indiana company called AM General, which developed the high-mobility multi-purpose wheeled vehicle, better known as the Humvee. This wasn't just another military truck. Standing over 6 feet wide with massive ground clearance and the ability to climb 60% grades, the Humvee could ford through 5 feet of water, survive electromagnetic pulses, and keep running after taking small arms fire. But it would take a Hollywood action star and one of America's biggest automakers to transform this military workhorse into one of the most controversial consumer vehicles ever sold. The civilian version of the Hummer began not in a boardroom, but on a movie set. In 1990, Arnold Schwarzenegger was filming the post-apocalyptic thriller Kindergarten Cop when he spotted a convoy of military Humvees and became instantly obsessed. The Austrian bodybuilder turned action hero convinced AM General to build him a street-legal version, becoming the first civilian to own what would become known as the Hummer H1. Schwarzenegger's influence extended far beyond just being customer number one. He actively lobbied AM General to produce civilian versions and even helped test early prototypes, driving them around his Brentwood neighborhood and generating massive media attention. When AM General finally launched civilian sales in 1992, they sold just 1,162 vehicles that first year, but each one cost between $56,000 and $100,000. The H1 was essentially a civilianized military vehicle with minimal creature comforts, no real sound insulation, and fuel economy that barely reached 10 miles per gallon on a good day. General Motors was paying attention. In 1999, GM purchased the Hummer brand from AM General for an undisclosed sum, though AM General retained the contract to manufacture the H1. GM's vision was ambitious. Transform this niche military-derived vehicle into a full automotive brand that could compete with luxury SUVs while maintaining its rugged, masculine image. The timing seemed perfect. The late 1990s and early 2000s marked the peak of America's SUV obsession, with consumers abandoning sedans in favor of larger, more commanding vehicles. Gas prices were still relatively low, averaging around $1.50 per gallon, and environmental concerns hadn't yet reached mainstream consciousness. GM saw an opportunity to create what they called a lifestyle brand that would appeal to affluent consumers who wanted to project strength, success, and a hint of military authority. In 2002, General Motors launched the H2, and it represented everything the company hoped the Hummer brand could become. Built on a modified Chevrolet Tahoe platform rather than the H1's pure military architecture, the H2 was significantly more comfortable and user-friendly than its predecessor, while maintaining an intimidating presence that dwarfed every other vehicle on the road. At over 6,000 pounds and measuring more than 6 feet tall, the H2 featured luxury amenities like leather seats, premium audio systems, and advanced four-wheel drive technology. GM's marketing campaign positioned the H2 as the ultimate expression of American strength and individuality, with commercials showing the massive SUV conquering impossible terrain, while a narrator intoned about getting there being half the fun. The strategy worked spectacularly well initially. GM sold over 34,000 H2s in 2003, generating substantial profits since the vehicle commanded premium pricing starting at around $50,000 while sharing many components with cheaper GM trucks. The cultural impact of the Hummer brand during its peak years cannot be overstated. These vehicles became rolling statements of wealth, power, and unapologetic excess during an era when bigger was universally considered better. Professional athletes, celebrities, and business executives lined up to purchase H2s, often customizing them with elaborate sound systems, custom paint jobs, and luxury accessories that could push the total cost well over $70,000. The H2 spawned an entire aftermarket industry of accessories and modifications, from light bars and winches to custom wheels and performance upgrades. GM capitalized on this enthusiasm by launching the smaller H3 in 2005, built on the Colorado pickup truck platform and priced more accessibly starting around $30,000. The H3 was designed to bring the Hummer brand to a broader audience while maintaining the distinctive styling and rugged capability that defined the nameplate. For a brief moment, it seemed like GM had successfully created a sustainable luxury brand built around the concept of civilian military vehicles. But even as Hummer sales peaked in the mid-2000s, warning signs were emerging that would ultimately doom the brand. Environmental activists began targeting Hummer owners and dealerships with protests, criticism, and even vandalism, viewing these vehicles as symbols of wasteful consumption and environmental destruction. The H2's EPA rating of 9 miles per gallon in city driving made it one of the least fuel-efficient vehicles sold in America, and its massive size and weight contributed to concerns about safety for occupants of smaller vehicles in collisions. More fundamentally, American attitudes toward consumption and environmental responsibility were beginning to shift. The documentary An Inconvenient Truth brought climate change concerns into mainstream consciousness, while rising awareness of America's dependence on foreign oil made gas-guzzling vehicles seem increasingly irresponsible. Some environmentalists organized Hummer tours, where they would drive around wealthy neighborhoods leaving fake parking tickets on H2s that read, "For violating the earth," and cited the vehicle's poor fuel economy and emissions. The beginning of the end came suddenly and brutally in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina disrupted oil production in the Gulf of Mexico, sending gas prices soaring past $3 per gallon. Almost overnight, the vehicles that had been symbols of success and power became expensive liabilities. Hummer sales began declining immediately, falling from over 71,000 vehicles in 2006 to just 27,000 in 2008. The psychological impact of higher gas prices extended far beyond the actual cost of fuel. Consumers began associating large SUVs with financial irresponsibility and environmental destruction, while rising gas prices made the practical limitations of vehicles like the H2 impossible to ignore. A Hummer H2 with a 32-gallon fuel tank could easily cost over $100 to fill up, and owners found themselves stopping for gas every 200 miles in city driving. General Motors tried desperately to adapt, introducing more fuel-efficient engines and hybrid technology, but the damage to the brand's reputation was irreversible. The final blow came with the 2008 financial crisis and the collapse of the American automotive industry. As General Motors faced bankruptcy, the company was forced to eliminate multiple brands and focus resources on its most profitable and essential operations. Hummer, which had never achieved the sales volumes GM had hoped for and was now actively damaging the company's reputation among environmentally conscious consumers, became an obvious candidate for elimination. In 2009, GM announced plans to discontinue the Hummer brand, initially attempting to sell it to Chinese manufacturer Sichuan Tengzhong Heavy Industrial Machinery Company. However, the Chinese government blocked the deal over concerns about the brand's environmental impact and fuel consumption. GM ultimately wound down Hummer production in 2010, with the final H3 rolling off the assembly line in May of that year. The brand's demise was remarkably swift considering its cultural prominence just a few years earlier. From peak sales in 2006 to complete shutdown took less than 4 years, making Hummer one of the most dramatic casualties of changing American attitudes toward fuel consumption and environmental responsibility. Yet the story of Hummer doesn't end with its 2010 demise. In October 2020, General Motors shocked the automotive world by announcing the resurrection of the Hummer name as an all-electric truck under the GMC brand. The new Hummer EV represents everything the original brand was not: environmentally conscious, technologically advanced, and designed for an era of sustainable transportation. With over 1,000 horsepower from its electric motors and the ability to accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3 seconds, the new Hummer EV delivers the power and performance that defined the original while producing zero direct emissions. The vehicle features advanced technology like four-wheel steering, removable roof panels, and something called crab mode that allows all 4 wheels to steer simultaneously for diagonal movement. GM's decision to revive the Hummer name for an electric vehicle represents both clever marketing and symbolic redemption, transforming a brand that once symbolized environmental destruction into a showcase for sustainable performance technology. The resurrection of Hummer as an electric vehicle reflects broader changes in both the automotive industry and American consumer attitudes. Where the original Hummer represented conspicuous consumption and disregard for environmental consequences, the new Hummer EV allows consumers to project power and capability while maintaining environmental consciousness. The vehicle's impressive specifications, including over 300 miles of range and the ability to power a house during blackouts, demonstrate how electric technology has evolved to meet the performance expectations of traditional truck buyers. General Motors has positioned the new Hummer EV as a supertruck that combines the capability and presence of the original with cutting-edge electric technology and sustainable operation. Early reception has been overwhelmingly positive, with GM receiving over 100,000 reservations for the vehicle within months of its announcement, suggesting that consumers are ready to embrace high-performance electric vehicles that don't compromise on capability or presence. The complete story of Hummer, from military vehicle to civilian status symbol to environmental pariah to electric resurrection, perfectly encapsulates the dramatic changes in American automotive culture over the past 3 decades. The original Hummer's rise reflected an era of cheap gas, environmental indifference, and celebration of excess that defined the early 2000s. Its rapid fall demonstrated how quickly consumer attitudes can shift when economic and environmental realities change. The brand's electric resurrection represents hope that American automotive culture can evolve toward sustainability without sacrificing the performance and capability that consumers demand. GM's ability to transform Hummer from symbol of waste into showcase of efficiency proves that even the most problematic brands can find redemption through technological innovation and changing consumer values. Whether the new electric Hummer can recapture the cultural impact of the original while avoiding its environmental baggage remains to be seen, but its very existence demonstrates the automotive industry's remarkable ability to reinvent itself for changing times. The Hummer story ultimately serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of building a brand around unsustainable practices while simultaneously offering hope that innovation and adaptation can breathe new life into even the most controversial automotive nameplate.